Dan Perry joins us, publisher of the Ask Questions Later, former chief editor for the AP in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Welcome back, Dan. Let me just ask you about Iran first. I want to talk about some broader issues after that. What do you think's going on here with this back and forth on Trump?
It's clear the Iranians are a little bit concerned, given that Trump has made all these appointments that don't bode well for them, because you're talking about a lot of hawks on the Iran issue, and they're obviously trying to make nice. I mean, you have to look in astonishment at a world in which countries promise one another they won't kill the other's leaders. But putting aside the absurdity of it, it does suggest that the Iranians are feeling somewhat under the gun.
And to that point about the larger picture of the Middle East, you wrote for The Hill about how Trump 2.0 will change American foreign policy, writing that Trump's unpredictability and willingness to upend longstanding norms could set off a wave of radical change in key regions. So talk about that wave and what you think it might be coming here.
Well, it's quite an irony because, you know, there has been a bipartisan post-World War II consensus as regards foreign policy, however much the parties disagreed on domestic policy. And that consensus was that the U.S. has a role to promote stability in the world and prosperity and fight authoritarianism and further democracy. And Trump is the big break with it. Trump's entire notion is that every country has to look out for itself. This Hobbesian dog-eat-dog world is his entire foreign policy, basically, except where he perceives a win. And this is the irony, because there's money on the table here. There are quite a number of crises in the world that, despite Trump's instinctive isolationism, basically, and that of the MAGA wing of the Republican Party, need handling. When he said that the world is on fire and that Biden has left the world on fire, that wasn't nonsense. It really is true. The Middle East, in particular, is the entire edifice in the Middle East is badly broken, and it requires someone to come in and essentially break heads with the Iranians, who must be told that their entire chaos project with the proxy militias everywhere, destabilizing countries from Lebanon to Iraq to Yemen, impeding global maritime trade to an outrageous degree. All this has to stop. Biden basically let him get away with it. But the big imminent change, I do believe, will involve Ukraine, where his wing of the Republican Party does not look well upon continued arming of Ukraine at a level that basically ensures a forever war, because what Biden did is to allow Ukraine to not be defeated, but also not give it enough to win the war. Trump will go one way or the other. It's hard for me to see him doubling down on arming Ukraine, although clearly Zelensky prefers that and hopes for that.
Right.
More likely the opposite.
Right, and it pulling back completely, or at least it'll be interesting to see the timing on that. We don't know. I mean, there's some unpredictability in this, so we'll see. But I think you're right to point out Ukraine even more so maybe than the Middle East. Thank you, Dan, as always. Dan Perry.